Great. So this is the month of love. And we are going to be talking about compassion for the next 2 sessions. Compassion is defined as a feeling that arises when you're confronted with another's suffering and you feel motivated to relieve that suffering. So it is what happens after empathy. Now, Bob Thurman, an American Buddhist author and academic, said, unless and until you have real compassion, you cannot recognize love. Hi, this is Clarity Coach Lucy. It is the month of love, and our last 2 episodes have been about grief and loss, because that is the depth where you have loved, is the same kind of depth that you will experience grief and loss. And they have been throwbacks from last year. It is my hope that you benefited from them greatly. I loved them, and I just thought I would share these with you just so that we can lead into compassion. Well, the next 2 episodes are about compassion as we continue to celebrate the month of love. And as introduced, until you have a real compassion, you cannot recognize love. I'm just going to check that indeed we are live, just to make sure that we are connected. Yes, we are live. Fantastic. So during my coaching sessions, I have a session on core values, and some clients will tell me that they are compassionate. Well, in our part 1 of compassion, we seek to understand what compassion is and where we should start first. So as we expound on this compassion during our sessions, it comes out as a value, yes, it comes out as a behavior, something then that we have an output of. Because when you say that you are compassionate, you then need to act it out in your behavior. There needs to be some sort of compassionate behavior, I guess. Anyway, so back to this compassion, we clearly have this clarity of the actions that we need to be being part of. We need to take off. We need to partake of, actually is the word I'm looking for, and be able to understand what it means in our lives. However, we realize very quickly, I'm just going to move this on the side like this. Great. We realize very quickly that we have compassion for others and not for self. You heard me right. We have compassion for others and not for self. We say we are compassionate. We move on with actions of compassion, and really we elevate, or we relieve, or not elevate, we relieve people's passion, compassion. And we find that we have fulfillment when we do that, when we see the other being in a better place. Because compassion for me starts from sympathy. You see a situation, you are sympathetic, you want to help out, you want to be able to say, I recognize, I see you, I hear you, but that's just sympathy. I'm sorry this happened to you. You can then move on to empathy, where empathy says, I get it. I am in your shoes, I'm walking with you. You come and you give the person your space, or maybe your hug if you can, and you totally get where they're coming from, and you share your support from that part. Now, compassion is at another level, because now with compassion, you look at, yes, I am sympathetic, I am empathetic, but I am moved to do something about it. I am moved to relieve you of this suffering. It's as simple as that. I am moved to relieve you of this suffering. So today's question is simple. How compassionate are you to self? Remembering that it is our nature to automatically help somebody else when we are. So how compassionate are we to ourselves? It's also about the blocks. We want to be compassionate with ourselves, but then they are blocks. And what are these blocks? What is it that stops us from being compassionate to self? Well, I suggest to you that we are a sum of our experiences, both good experiences and bad experiences. Both good experiences and bad experiences. Now, when you look at your good experiences, I would like you to just for a moment think about your happy place. So if I was to ask you to go to your happy place at this very moment, where would that happy place be? And why? Just take a moment and think about it. I've asked you to go to your happy place. You're going to this place, but where is it and why? Why did you choose to go there immediately? And why not another one? And as you're taking a moment to think about it, is it happy because of how it made you feel? Were you the giver or the receiver? Because we're talking about compassion here. We're talking about the blocks to compassion. We are unable to show compassion to ourselves. And I've gone ahead to say that we are a sum of our experiences, both good and bad. The question today is, how compassionate are you to self? So I've sent you to this happy place. And how does this happy place make you feel? Happy, I know, but think about it. How does it make you feel? Were you the giver? Because remember now, this is in the past, and there's really nothing we can do about it other than have total recall of it. So when you go to this happy place, how do you feel? Were you the giver? Were you the receiver? What comes to mind for you? And this is the important one. This happy place that you have, is it a physical place? When I say go to this happy place and you go there, is it a physical place that you're at? Is it a word? Is it a word that you hear and you are automatically moved to this happy place, or transported or teleported to this happy place? Is it an emotion? Perhaps it's an emotion. When you're in your happy place, it's because you're in this emotion you're experiencing. Is it a song? You've heard many people say that my happy place is this song. When I hear it, I'm just so happy. Well, think about it. If it is that physical place, what happened in the past in that physical place that meets the criteria to make it a happy place for you? Be specific, because you're going to need this in a few minutes. Just be specific as to why that physical place is your happy place. Is it something that happened there? Did you do something? Was something done unto you? Were you the giver or were you the receiver? Could it be something, and let me give you an example, that perhaps one of your values is abundance. You live a life of abundance. So whatever you have, you're happy to share. And this was a time in your youth, you went out and you shared what you had with others in this specific place. And you were the giver. Now, the way you were received and the way the reactions happened around you and the feelings that you had of fulfillment, they just merged. I mean, they were unbelievable. They were profound. The feelings of fulfillment all around was just on another level. And then you didn't think about it. But today, when I'm saying to you, take a moment and go to a happy place, that is where you teleported to. Now, that is what you start remembering. Yes, Lucy, I was the giver. I was feeling fulfilled. Why were you feeling fulfilled? Because I was acting out on my value of abundance. So I hope you understand where we're going with this. So if it is a physical place, attach a time. What happened there? Give it that meaning so that you can always go back to that point of saying it's a happy place because of this reason, this very reason. Is it a word? Maybe your happy place is a word. When a certain word is mentioned, you find yourself in this happy place. For whatever reason, you've got the giggles, or you've got a smile, or your heart is just feeling so full. So this happy place could be a word. What is it? Find out what this word is, because you're going to need it. Is it an emotion? What is it? Is it an emotion? Because emotions are very different from that word. That word could be something like dancing, could be something like writing, could be something like cooking. That could be something that just invokes happiness in you. The emotion is something totally different. These emotions that happen in our lives are all these chemical reactions in our bodies. We can't control them. We can't control them when they're coming out. We can control how long we are going to stay in that emotion. But this emotion just comes up. It's the first thing that comes up as your reaction to a situation. So is it an emotion that makes this place a happy place? Is it a song? And do you know the song? So I'm encouraging you to know your happy place. It's so important to know your happy place. Hello, Julie. Good to see you and welcome. It's been a minute. Tune into your happy place, guys. Embrace it and recognize the different things that happen to you when you're in this happy place. Because we have defined compassion. We now want to be able to see how we can apply this compassion to ourselves. Because the question today is, how compassionate are you to self? It's very important to be compassionate to self. So these are the 4 areas that I suggest to you will be ways for you to check and balance. You know, like in a corporate house, you want to have things that are in check and balance. When you're tuning into your happy place, how do you know that you're there? How do you know how you're feeling? Well, these are the 4 areas I encourage you to look at. One of them is your physical reaction. When you're in this happy place, what happens to your body? Are you smiling? Is your shoulder twitching? You know, are you scratching your head? Are you feeling like you want to move your legs? What is it? It's a physical reaction that is happening when you're in this happy place. Recognize it, savor it, and save it, because you're going to come back to it. Where does your mind go? Because wherever your mind goes, that is where the energy is. So if your mind is in a good place, your energy is just good. You know, you just want to pour good energy over whatever situation you're in. So where does your mind go? Think about a specific place where your mind goes at that point. Maybe it just goes to happiness. And that is where all your energy then flows. And this is okay. But be aware of where your mind goes. Now, what is the associated language? What words are coming to you? What words are you dying to use? Because those words, again, just like where your mind goes and just like your physical reaction, I want you to know those words, embrace them, recognize them. I want you to savor them and save them. And last but not least is the meaning it has for you. So you're in this happy place. What does it mean for you? Savor it and save it. This is you becoming self-aware. This is you understanding yourself. So if somebody says to you, what do you feel about this? And you say, no, I'm not happy. And they say, please expound. Why are you not happy? Everybody's happy. You're able to check into your own reactions within, your physical reaction, where your mind is going, what you're associating, which language are you associating it with, what it means for you. You are able to go back to that place because why? You savored it and you saved it as a happy place. You know what it feels to be happy. And so now you're ready to apply it. This is you being aware of yourself. This is you understanding. Now that we know what we know, I want us to turn the tables and go to a sad place, a traumatic place, a hurtful place, a place where you are not happy at all. Now that you're in that place, guys, I want you to ask yourself the same questions we asked for a happy place. Where is that sad place? And why is it sad for you? As you're taking a moment to think about this sad place, is it sad because it made you feel in a certain way? Were you the giver or the receiver of this sadness, of this trauma, of this hurt? What comes to mind when you think about it? Is it a physical place? I'm asking you to go to a sad place. Have you found yourself in a physical place? You're saying it is this particular house, this room, this office, this street, this car, is it a physical place for you? You want to ask yourself why. What happened in that physical place? What part did you play in this sad place? It's important for you to know. Don't just let it be lip service. I don't like to turn down on that street. It just makes me sad. Why? You need to know the whys. You need to give it meaning. Is it a word? Is there a word when somebody mentions it makes you sad, or it hurts you, or it takes you to a traumatic place? What is it? Think about that word. You will realize that certain words, when mentioned, have a history that you didn't even know about. But the minute you start questioning this word that I have in my mind, which takes me to a sad place, it is because this is how it made me feel. This is where it happened. This is how it was said to me or mentioned, or this is how it happened to somebody else. And I reflected it on myself. That word. Is it an emotion? Is it a song? What is it? You need to know what place this is. You need to be vulnerable enough with yourself to know the sad place in your life. And as you tune into this place and recognize where this feeling is coming or how these feelings are coming over you, you then check into the 4 areas again that I encouraged you. Your physical reaction, you'll start to realize that your body reacts. Suddenly, you know you're going into a sad place, a traumatic place, you're going into a hurtful place, a bad place. It's because your body is talking to you, your gut is communicating to you. Pay attention to it. Because just as in you can communicate your happy place, you can communicate when you're in a sad place and the why. So your body will tell you where your mind goes. That is where the energy is going. It will tell you the language that comes to mind. I don't want to do this. I don't want this to happen. This is bad. This is sad. The kind of language that comes to you at this point tells you are in a space that you don't want to be in. So if you didn't hear your body language, if you didn't hear where your mind went, then you will hear your language. And the 4th one, the meaning. What meaning does it have for you? So these 4 areas help you to understand yourself. And when you feel these things coming over you, you recognize that you are going to this sad place, or you're going to this place of loss, or you're going to this place of hopelessness. And this is what happens in our minds. We go to these places, whether we like it or not. Automatically, there's an environment, there's a trigger that sends us to those places. And then what do we do to ourselves? We beat ourselves up. We don't measure up to the successes that we have experienced over life. So for instance, we go back to the happy place. You do have happy places, but then you forget about this happy place at this moment when you're visiting a sad place, when your mind has taken you to this sad place, when something has triggered this sad place, when you're watching a movie that has a sad story that you can relate to. I ask you to choose compassion. Choose compassion in these areas. Choose compassion for self, that yes, I am a sum of my experiences, both the good and the bad. And I have control, because though right now I am feeling this anxiety, I am feeling this hurt, I don't have to live in this space. I am compassionate to myself, understanding where I am and choosing to be in a happy place. Now, remember, I asked you to save and to savor because you're going to need it. Now you need to lock into your happy place and activate it. So show yourself compassion. When you wake up in the morning and you have this feeling of dread, because it does happen, you wake up and you're not looking forward to the day, know that you are feeling that dread. and then choose to be happy. You now know what it takes to be happy. Choose to be happy. Go to that happy place. And every time during the day, when you feel that you're being dragged down to this dreadful, sad, hurtful place, choose compassion. We may be talking about past experiences, and they're not only made up of our good and our bad, they're also made up of our conditioning, of our childhood. In my coaching, I take my clients through the Kamuto Exercise, where we plug into negative voices in our heads, those ones that are inner critics. And I ask my clients that they need to consider being outside their comfort zone. Because when you consider being outside your comfort zone, I beg your pardon, you're not sure now how things are done. The minute you try to transcend, you have something new that you want to try out in your life, you're stepping out of your comfort zone. That's an example. And you will realize that certain voices will come to you. When you're doing something that you're comfortable with, there's no voice in your head challenging you about what you're doing. The minute you just want to shake the dice and throw it a different way, you've got many voices coming to you. Now, that's your inner critic. That's your block. That is that thing that stops you from entering your full potential in that moment. It happens to all of us. You're not unique. It's a matter of how you're going to use this as your stepping stone to success. Anyway, so back to the coaching. Hi, Kavi, good to see you here. And Jane, great to have you here, guys. I then ask you in the session to search these voices and see where they originated from. Now, more often than not, they originate from our childhood because we are conditioned. So this is your 10-year-old self or your 12-year-old self showing up as an adult whenever the game shifts, whenever you have something new you're trying out, whenever you've been challenged at something. Yeah, thank you so much, Kavi. You find that this is the you that is showing up, the 10-year-old self. And I ask you to go back there and find out, where did it come from? So let's look at this case in point of compassion. Perhaps you were conditioned at that age not to expect sympathy. So whatever you did, you were not to expect sympathy. You were just to trudge on. You were not to expect empathy. No one was going to understand where you came from. And therefore, by extension, you were not to expect compassion. No one is going to come and relieve you of the situation. And the words that were thrown at you were, toughen up, be strong, stop crying, be independent, stop whining, don't be weak. These are words that over and over and over were spoken to you, and words that you received and you banked. And then today, when you are given an opportunity to step into your potential, the minute you even start thinking about it, the mechanism in your mind that is your defense mechanism doesn't recognize this new step because it only recognizes your comfort zone. Your mind is only protecting you. So the minute you take that step, these inner critics come alive. These are the blocks. And this is what I call my Kamuto exercise. So we want to be able to control these. And this is what I do in my sessions. I encourage you to look at my Facebook, which is called LMC, my Facebook, which is the one you're on right now, which is hashtag Tuesday Talks at 3. I'd like you to look at my website, which is LMC Consultancy, and just look at the tools that I have there for you to be able to understand how you can take this and convert your narrative and choose compassion. So this is your past experience. And now we've talked about the sum of good and bad, and we've talked about your childhood traumas. You're aware of these blocks now. What you're going to do about them, I'm able to help you in my courses. But having real compassion for self opens you up to recognize love. Because just like Bob Thurman said, until you have experienced compassion, until you understand compassion, that's what he said, until you have real compassion, you will not recognize love. So having real compassion for self opens you up to recognize love. Now, here we're talking about love for self first. You have to have compassion for self. So the question today to you who are online is, how compassionate are you to self? And I'd love to see you sharing. Now, to open up yourself to compassion needs you to be vulnerable. Vulnerability is one thing that we shy away from. But now we are talking about self. You must strive to be truthful to self. The minute you choose to lie to yourself, you're already losing the battle. There's no hope. You need to speak truth into self and then execute it in your behavior, in your actions. So if it is you want to be true to yourself and walk into love, I would love for you to visit my self-love series on my YouTube channel, where I cover 4 episodes. There's inner self, there's authentic self, there's priority of self, and there's number 1 self-fan. I encourage you to visit this self-love series because we must do this one step at a time. Who is our inner self? You need to be truthful to yourself to accept who you are, your good and your bad. You need to identify the vulnerabilities in your life to know that you have been conditioned from your youth. There were words that were spoken to you, over you, or things that you saw that you experienced every day. And this conditioned you and you banked it. And today, when you're moving out of that comfort zone, your mind, your brain is protecting you and saying, no, hold on here, don't move from here. This is where we know how to operate. But you want to step into your potential. And this is the block today to step into your potential. So acknowledging who you are is one of the steps towards knowing who you are, understanding who you are. Until you know self, there's no way you can expect others to know you. There's no way you can expect to step into a relationship with others, no matter what the relationship is about. So compassion is what I'm asking you to choose. And I can see there's a few comments here. Let me just sample them. I can see Kavi has said, talk of heads and tails. Oh, that is now flipping it up in the air. An interesting one there, Kavi. I'd like to know more about that. And you say you're on a roll, Lucy. Thank you so much, Kavi. This subject is very close to my heart. Let's see. Oh, hello, Sheila. Good to see you here today. Good to see you. It's been a minute. So Sheila says, I think that alongside showing compassion to myself, I will add in encouraging myself. I will be my most ardent cheerleader. What I need from you, Lucy, is how to have really constructive encouragement as opposed to narcissistic. That's a beautiful question, Sheila. And in my episodes, the 4 episodes where I talk about your inner self, your authentic self, and your priority of self, and number 1 fan, you will find that especially in the priority of self, you need to choose yourself over others. It is our natural DNA, our natural default, our natural way of doing things that we tend to prioritize others. So one of the things we need to do in encouraging ourselves is affirmations. And we're going to look at different ways of affirming. One of them is that knowing that you are successful, knowing that you are loved, that you are needed, you are seen, you are appreciated. These are one of the different ways that you can encourage yourself, because dark days will come, just like the shadow you have from your being. Not every day is a rosy day. So remember those rosy days and bank them. Like I said to you in the beginning of our session, I want you to go to that happy place. When you go to that happy place, break it down. Know why you're in that happy place, what happens in that happy place. Realize how your body is reacting, how your mind is reacting, what meaning you're putting to it, what language. Save it, savor it, bank it. So when it comes to encouragement, Sheila, and that is on the priority of self in my self-love series, you go back there and you remember the happy place, and you are able to encourage yourself that this too shall pass. And this season that you're in is only for a short time. The happiness is coming, and then make it happen. The last thing that I did say is that if you woke up today and you're feeling down and out, you're not alone. The difference between you and the other person who's going to spend the entire day being down and out is that you know that a happy place exists. You are making a conscious choice, Sheila, that when you wake up today and you're feeling the way you're feeling, you know the other end of the thermometer. You know that you want to feel happy, joyful. You want to enjoy life. You're asking yourself, what do I need to do to get there? That's your happy place. The answers that you gave when you asked, why are you happy? What is it about this place? Is it a word? Is it an emotion? I do hope I've answered your question, Sheila, that you can choose compassion for self. Because compassion is about suffering together in the quest of life. And in this case, we're talking about self. So this is you having a discussion with yourself before you then go out to the world. Open up and be vulnerable with yourself. The other thing that you need to know is that now that you have compassion for yourself, inner reflection is very important, just like in a corporate world. And I love to give examples of the corporate world. Inner reflection is an audit. Now, in a corporate world, the checks and the balances are the audit. So checks and balances are key to knowing where you stand at all times. So as an individual, where do you stand? Is it where you want it to be? Now, scholars call this intrapersonal communication. That's what they call it. I just call it the audit, the inner reflection. It's something you have to do every so often. And what are some of the things that you should include in your inner reflection when it comes to matters of love and compassion? I suggest to you that the first thing you need to know is your love language. What is your love language? How do you show up? Is your love language about affirmation? If you are being affirmed by somebody out there, do you feel loved? So are you affirming yourself? Are you reminding yourself? And you see it on many YouTube channels, how you can write down at least 5 or 6 affirmations, up to 10 even, and put them up on your mirror. And every morning affirm self. Maybe this is what you need. So affirm yourself. Don't expect it of others. This is the compassion I'm encouraging you to have for self. Is it acts of service that is your love language? So what are your acts of service? If you had somebody doing an act of service for you, what would it be? Would it be cooking you a meal? Would it be writing you a poem? Would it be visiting you? And when I say visiting with you, it's taking time to sit with you and chat, visiting with you in that way, listening to you. So why don't you do this to yourself first? Give yourself, perform an act of service to self. Visit with yourself. Have a conversation with yourself. And I'm serious. You cannot have the television on. You can't have your phone around you. There cannot be any distractions. You need to be able to visit with yourself. Even if it's just for 15 minutes, if you're sitting out on a veranda and visiting with yourself in nature. Is it gratitude? Perhaps you want to be told, thank you for doing something. Perhaps you want to hear somebody being grateful for something that happened to them. Perhaps you want to hear attitude of gratitude around you. Are you grateful for the things that you are, the values that you have, the person that you are? Do this unto self. This is your love language. Recognize it. Which one is it? Is it affirmation? Is it acts of service? Is it gratitude? The next thing that I would like you to pay attention to is start to apply it to yourself by understanding the level that you want. What is the level of affirmation that you want to yourself? The frequency. Do you want it every hour on the hour? Do you want it every time you're feeling down? When is it that you want it? Do you want it when people are standing up and they're maybe introducing you? Do you want to be affirmed at that point as to who you are? So what level of strength, energy, force, or vigor do you want to receive this love language? And then do it to yourself. If for you it is every time when you're transcending into a new idea or something new, moving out of your comfort zone, you need affirmation, remember to go back to your list of affirmations and read them out to yourself. If it is prayer that is your love language, then go back to your prayer and pray at that point. How often are you going to do it? Is it once a day? Is it once a week? Understand the frequency, the level of strength. I don't know if you'd understand when you look at a meter and how it moves from one side is the lowest to the highest. Apply it to self. Apply the what, the when, and the how. And as we come to the end of our session, I give you the takeaways. How to exercise compassion to self. I'm just checking if there are other comments. I think we're doing well. Thank you so much for being with me here today as we ask the question, how compassionate are you being to yourself? I am saying to you and suggesting that 3 ways that you can exercise compassion to self is number 1, look at your past experience and be aware of it and be comfortable with it. It's in the past. There's nothing you can do about it. You only are assured of the here and the now. So use your past to build up your present. Change your narrative. Choose a happy place. The second one is vulnerability. Choose to be truthful to yourself, honest with yourself. Don't lie to yourself. You lie to yourself, you've got nothing. You've got nothing if you lie to yourself. And then last but not least is the audit. Audit yourself on specific areas from time to time on matters compassion. So the next time you tell somebody, I am a compassionate person, stop and ask yourself, am I compassionate to self? Is this a true statement? So you need to be vulnerable and true to yourself. So we have understood compassion and we know the importance and where to start from. I hope everybody agrees with me now that compassion needs to start from self. Thank you so much, Kavi. Kavi says, thank you, Lucy. I have heard you loud and clearly. Thank you for being here on this session today. Next week, we will seek to understand how to be compassionate with others and hopefully sustain love from this compassion. Because only if we have compassion, we'll be able to recognize love, and we all need love. We know we are human, we are social beings, and we want to be loved. We want to feel loved. We want to feel heard. So in the meantime, until next week, remember to like our Facebook page and receive regular updates. Please visit our website. And our website, as I say, is lmcconsultancy.com. We've got a lot of updates right there. Jump in there and be able to be enriched by what there is there. Like our YouTube page, click and notify and hit the notification button so that you can be able to get all the notifications on time. Now, my book is out. It's available on Amazon. It is called Awakening Self. It's available in 2 versions, in the Kindle and in the paperback. You want to be able to get yourself a copy. Next month, we'll be giving some giveaways for those who are showing their book and with a photograph to us, and we'll be able to give something back to you. So we want to continue helping to build one another until next week. Oh, before we signed off, Sheila says, you have ended this message far too soon. Sheila, thank you so much for that. We'll see you next week. Until then, be kind to yourself. Bye-bye now.